Welcome to the Lead Every Day show. Our mission is to see a world well led. And our strategy to get there? To empower leaders like you to lead every day. So let's get to work.
Welcome to the Lead Every Day show. I am so glad you've joined us today. I hope you've been enjoying this series we've been in for the last few days now, really over a week. We've been talking about building a high-performance team. And today we're going to continue our conversation on top talent. What is it that attracts top talent? Now, I know the last couple days, 3 days in particular, we have given you 3 things that are conditions of employment. Today, there's a couple other things that you're going to need to do, and we're going to talk about those the next couple of days. So welcome to the Lead Every Day show. I'm Randy Gravitt.
And I'm Mark Miller.
And Mark, this is going to be an interesting part of the conversation because there's so many people that keep telling me, well, don't you just pay them a little more, or don't you just, they've got what if we get a ping pong table? We joked a couple of days ago. There are some things that we assume as leaders are attractive. Right. And so I don't want to just sweep that off the table and say those things aren't important. There are some what we'll call non-negotiables. Yeah. I think when we did this work, we discovered there were 3 things, but they do want to be well-led, and they do want to grow, and they do want to be a part of something great like we talked about yesterday. If you missed any of those episodes, I hope you'll go back and check them out. And first, let us say thank you for listening and downloading and sharing with your family and friends. Continue to do that. But today, as we continue this conversation, there are some non-negotiables we learned about.
Yeah.
Why don't we unpack that for them?
Well, yeah, I want to go back and pick up on a word you just used, assumptions. I had a leader mentor years ago. He said, never assume that which can be verified.
That's good.
And I, and so many leaders have some faulty assumptions when you think about this whole top talent arena.
Yeah, and let me pause you there and just say, I think the older we get, the more ingrained those things can be. I mean, it's right. Like we can carry these with us a long time.
We can.
So we want to unpack.
We can. And so when we did the work, we mentioned, we discovered the things you just talked about, and I would call those the direct findings. We had a couple of indirect findings that I think are as critical and essential to get this right. One we'll talk about today and one we'll talk about tomorrow. And you use the language, the non-negotiables. Because remember, we were trying to figure out how to attract and keep top talent. So therefore, for those that may have missed a previous episode, you have to actually compare and contrast that with a control group. And the control group was what we call typical talent. Mm-hmm. So we were looking at the things that were different. And you just referenced those: better boss, brighter future, bigger vision. That's what separates them. But we were intrigued by the things they had in common. Mm-hmm. And one of the let's talk about a couple of those. The first one is they want to work in a healthy environment.
Yeah.
You might think of that as culture. And I've seen some data recently, and it's hard for me to believe, but the data is typically
it's the data. Yeah.
The data. The younger workforce would say that culture is more important than salary. Now, they may change their mind as they age and mature and they have
house payments
and other things. But I think it really highlights how important talent or how important culture is to talent, mm-hmm. typical and top talent. If you've got a toxic workplace, you're going to have trouble getting A players or B players.
Yeah.
People really do care about where they work.
Yeah.
And so we have chosen to call it a non-negotiable, a table stake.
Yeah, yeah. It's like if you're playing poker, there's an ante, you got to put a little in the pot to get in the game. Mm-hmm. I think typical talent, top talent, you have a payroll, you're going to have to put a little bit of something in the game here.
Energy
and I'm not
effort.
talking about salary here.
Yeah,
I'm talking
energy
about
and effort on the
I'm
culture.
talking about culture. Yeah, exactly. You got to roll some culture into the middle of the table if you expect to keep people.
Yeah. So
not many people want to work for a negative, toxic organization.
Right. But, we just did some work that we published under the name Culture Rules, and I'll just do a quick shout out. We've got some episodes if you want to go back and listen
we did some
to that.
Work on that.
But workplace cultures around the world are a mess right now.
Yeah.
And I think the primary culprit is that leaders aren't working on culture, not thoughtfully, strategically, proactively. I mean, we even ask them about what drives performance. 72% of U.S. leaders say that culture is the most powerful tool at their disposal to drive performance. And then we asked those same leaders to rank their priorities.
Yeah.
You remember what we learned.
I do.
They said building and maintaining culture is number 12.
Yeah.
So I don't know about you, but I'm not working on my 12th priority.
Yeah. I don't even know what mine is. It's
On a good day, I'm working on some of my top priorities.
Yeah.
So leaders have admitted they're not working on culture.
which they say is the most important, which is
In driving performance.
That's
which
a whole
is,
different
That's
episode,
another
but yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
But I want to mention it here because top talent and typical talent, they demand a healthy culture.
well, they agree with the leader who says it is the most important thing. So we better be putting some time on it
Yeah.
because it's
a big deal. You got to work on
It is a big
culture.
deal. All right,
Yeah.
so there's a couple other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. One was a safe place to work.
Yeah.
And I think that includes physical safety and psychological safety.
Yeah.
Leaders, you are accountable. We are accountable as leaders. Is it a physically safe and a psychologically safe place to work?
I don't want a ladder falling on me, but I also, when you come to the psychological safety, I want to be heard. I want to be able to, I don't want
To contribute.
And I want to contribute. I mean, it's what's the old? It's hard to be down on what you're in on. I mean, there's
I want to be included.
I want to be included, and I always tell leaders people don't need their way as much as they need their way considered. I mean, I think that, and so if I'm the leader who's listening today, and I'm thinking I'm not been giving my people much voice, much opportunity to share what they're thinking, there's a good chance their engagement level goes down. Their employment at some point might be. I mean, they're soon out the door.
Their
if they're not
contribution
careful.
goes down,
Their
too.
contribution. I mean, and then performance goes down. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of things are on the line here, so we've got to put some time into hearing from our people. And you're I think you're the first one I heard say this, but the people closest to the problems are oftentimes closest to the solution. It's those frontline people, and yet we don't have any way or mechanism to get word up and down the line of the communication chain of command, whatever. And we wonder why they don't. They're out there like, well, they don't care what I think anyway, and they may have real answers.
Right.
Not everybody needs to weigh in on everything, but everybody needs to be heard on some stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think there's an opportunity here for us to provide some of that what you call psychological safety, or what they call psychological safety. I don't want to share what I'm feeling and then be reprimanded for that.
Right.
Because they're feeling it, whether I heard somebody say one time, it doesn't do you any good to not know what they're thinking. I'm not sure the English is right, but the spirit of it is perfect. I mean, It's like they're thinking it whether you know it or not. So why would you not have those conversations and have some of that? And I think when you do that and you receive feedback, you seek it and then you receive it in the right way and you make adjustments, you have a huge opportunity to gain their loyalty and their contribution, like we say, and their performance goes up. So it's a big opportunity.
Sure. And that's for A and B players. See, this
That's right,
was
everybody.
not a differentiator.
This is for everybody.
This is who you want on your team.
Yeah.
They really care about safety. And then the third one, and the final one we'll mention today, is fair wages.
Yeah.
Now, this shocks a lot of leaders. They're going, well, doesn't top talent need to be paid more? Well, again, you get to decide your compensation strategy. I would argue I want to pay top talent at the top of the scale for what they're doing. But I foreshadowed this a few days ago about the leader who wasn't really excited about better boss, brighter future, bigger vision, and he wanted to just hack the system. And I said, how are you going to do that? And I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I'm going to pay ungodly sums of money. He said, I'm just going to pay these people so much that I'm going to attract top talent. And again, I foreshadowed this the other day, but I followed up with him later and I said, hey, how'd that go? He said, well, in the beginning, spectacularly well. He said, you won't even believe the caliber of people you can get if you throw lots of money out there. And I said, well, congratulations. He said, yeah, not really. I said, what happened? He said, well, they were amazing. The most amazing people I've ever worked with. And in 6 months, they were all gone.
Yeah.
I said, I know why they were gone.
I do too.
He said, why? I said, because they want to be well-led. They want to be learning and growing, and they want to be part of something bigger than themselves. You tricked them. You did hack the system.
Yeah.
And they got there, and it's not really what they wanted, and they left. So now that particular leader is trying to build a place where people are well led, they're learning and growing, and they're part of something bigger than themselves.
And we'll land it there and pick up tomorrow. But I want to build on that, because here's what happens. It's just disastrous when top talented people leave because we duped them or we hacked the system. Because you know this. Top talented people hang out with top talented people, and word gets out that you don't deliver on what you're saying. That's a bad deal. So we'll pick up there tomorrow with this idea of what people are saying out there, and because I think this matters. This is a big deal. So I hope today you'll begin to give some thought to: do you have those non-negotiables in place? Do you have a place where people feel safe and people feel taken care of and compensated and all that stuff? I mean, your culture is healthy and vibrant. There's lots of things for us to work on continually, but I'm guessing you've got one or two that begin to stick out today and go, I'm not really sure that we're doing what we need to attract the people and to keep the people that we want. If you'll give a little thought to that, you really can make some adjustments and take your level of payroll, your level of talent to a new level, which would be amazing. All right, remember, the best leaders lead every day.